They won't chase you while you're explaining yourself. They won't respect you while you're begging to be understood. And they won't value you while you're standing still, waiting for permission. There comes a moment in life when you realize the loudest thing you can do is walk away in silence. No arguments, no announcements, no final speeches, just strength, just dignity, just forward motion. Because the truth is, people don't feel your value when you're present. They feel it when you're gone. This is not about pride. This is not about ego. This is about knowing your worth and refusing to negotiate it. When you stop chasing, the energy shifts. When you stop reacting, the power returns. And when you walk away in silence, that's when the world finally starts listening. Silence is power, not weakness. Silence is not surrender, it is strategy. And the strongest people in the room are rarely the loudest ones because they understand a truth most never learn. When you stop reacting, you start controlling the outcome. Silence is the pause that separates the emotional from the disciplined, the impulsive from the intentional, and in a world addicted to noise, reactions, explanations, and constant validation, silence becomes a weapon sharpened by self-respect. People expect you to argue, to defend yourself, to raise your voice when challenged, to justify your choices when misunderstood, but the moment you refuse to play that game, the entire dynamic shifts. Silence forces others to confront themselves. It removes their leverage. It denies them the satisfaction of watching you unravel. When you respond to disrespect with calm withdrawal, you send a message more powerful than any argument. You are not easily shaken, and your worth is not up for debate. Weakness is reacting to every provocation. Strength is knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you know when words will only cheapen your presence. The disciplined mind understands that not every battle deserves a response and not every opinion deserves an explanation. Silence is confidence without performance, strength without theatrics, power without permission. When you speak less, people listen more because your words are no longer wasted on chaos. Silence creates mystery, and mystery creates respect. It leaves room for your actions to speak, and actions carry weight words never will. People mistake silence for fear because they are uncomfortable with restraint. They believe power must always announce itself, but real power moves quietly, deliberately, and with purpose. When you walk away without explaining, you reclaim time, energy, and dignity that would have been lost in arguments that lead nowhere. Silence protects your peace, and peace is the foundation of every great decision. It allows you to observe instead of react, to analyze instead of explode, to choose growth instead of ego. In silence, you gain clarity, and clarity is dangerous because it removes confusion, emotional attachment, and desperation. The person who can stay silent under pressure has already won because they are no longer controlled by the emotions of others. Silence reveals who respects you and who only valued access to you. It exposes intentions because when you stop talking, people reveal themselves through their actions. Silence is not passive, it is active discipline. It is choosing long-term respect over short-term satisfaction. It is understanding that your value increases when you stop trying to prove it. When you walk away in silence, you are not running, you are rising. You are choosing alignment over approval, self-control over chaos, and power over noise. And that silence echoes louder than any shout because it tells the world you know exactly who you are and you don't need permission to stand in it. Self-respect changes the game. Self-respect is the moment you stop asking the world who you are and start deciding it for yourself. And once that switch flips, nothing stays the same again because people feel it before they hear it and see it before you explain it. Self-respect is not loud, it does not threaten, and it does not demand. It stands firm, unmovable, and undeniable. The truth is, people don't cross boundaries because they are strong. They cross them because they sense weakness, uncertainty, and hesitation. And the moment you develop self-respect, those same people suddenly become cautious, curious, and sometimes uncomfortable. Self-respect means you stop negotiating your dignity for attention, affection, or approval. It means you no longer tolerate disrespect just to avoid loneliness, conflict, or rejection. When you choose yourself, the dynamic shifts instantly. Conversations change, expectations change, and the way people treat you changes, not because you asked them to, but because you showed them how. Self-respect teaches others what access to you costs. It sets a standard without speeches, without ultimatums, without drama. It is expressed in the way you walk away from what no longer honors you, in the way you say no without guilt, and in the way you remain calm when tested. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will resist this change, not because you're wrong, but because you're no longer convenient, and that resistance is proof of growth. Self-respect is understanding that being alone is better than being diminished, that peace is more valuable than popularity, and that temporary discomfort is a small price to pay for long-term confidence. It is knowing that chasing validation weakens your position while walking away strengthens it. The moment you stop explaining your worth, you force others to reflect on how they treated you. Self-respect removes desperation from your energy, and desperation is what pushes people away. When you respect yourself, you no longer fear losing people who never truly valued you. You fear losing yourself by staying where you are not appreciated. Self-respect is discipline in disguise. It's waking up every day and choosing integrity over impulse, growth over comfort, and standards over shortcuts. It doesn't mean you think you're better than others. It means you refuse to be treated less than you deserve. People may not like your self-respect, but they will respect it because confidence that doesn't beg is intimidating to those who rely on control. When you stop chasing, people notice your absence. When you stop tolerating, people feel the boundary. When you stop settling, people recognize the shift. Self-respect changes the game because it removes you from situations where you are undervalued and places you in alignment with who you are becoming. It forces you to outgrow environments that once felt familiar but now feel limiting. And in that process, you don't lose people, you lose illusions. Self-respect is not an attitude. It is a lifestyle built on consistency, accountability, and self-belief. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows they can walk away and still stand tall. When you move with self-respect, you don't need to demand respect. It follows you. Absence creates value. Absence is one of the most misunderstood forces in human behavior, yet it is one of the most powerful because people rarely understand the weight of something until it is no longer within reach. When you are always available, always present, always giving, your value slowly becomes invisible, not because you lack worth, but because familiarity breeds entitlement. Absence interrupts that entitlement. It creates contrast, and contrast creates awareness. The truth is, people don't miss what they can access at any moment. They miss what they assumed would always be there. When you step back in silence without threats or explanations, you force others to sit with the reality of your absence, and that space becomes uncomfortable, reflective, and revealing. Absence shifts perception. It removes the emotional noise and allows people to replay moments they overlooked, respect they failed to show, and effort they took for granted. When you disappear from places where you were once overgiving, people begin to notice the silence you left behind, not because you announced it, but because your presence had more impact than they admitted. Absence is not manipulation, it is self-preservation. It is choosing to stop pouring into cups that never refill yours. When you create distance, you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your self-worth, and that reclaimed energy becomes the foundation for growth. Absence exposes intentions. Those who valued you will seek understanding. Those who only valued access will seek control. That difference becomes clear when you stop being available on demand. Absence also forces you to confront yourself because silence removes distractions and reveals whether you were staying out of love or out of fear. When you step away, you gain clarity, and clarity sharpens your standards. People begin to respect what they can no longer reach easily. Your time becomes more valuable, your words carry more weight, and your presence feels earned, not assumed. Absence creates boundaries without confrontation and teaches lessons without lectures. It is a quiet reminder that your energy is not unlimited and your life is not meant to be lived on standby for others. In absence, you grow stronger because you learn to be whole without external validation. You realize that your worth was never dependent on how often you showed up, but on the quality of who you are. Absence allows you to reset the balance of power because the one who can walk away without begging holds the advantage. People may not chase immediately, but the seed is planted. Over time, they begin to feel the difference between life with you and life without you. Absence gives space for regret, appreciation, and realization to grow. It separates those who miss your presence from those who miss your usefulness. Most importantly, absence teaches you that you do not need to be constantly present to be valuable. Your absence proves your impact. When you return, if you choose to, it is on your terms with boundaries, clarity, and self-respect. Absence creates value because it forces recognition, and recognition is something no explanation can ever replace. Growth requires letting go. Growth is not comfortable, and it is never convenient because becoming more than you are demands releasing what once felt safe, familiar, and acceptable. Letting go is not a sign of weakness or failure. It is proof that you are evolving beyond environments, habits, and relationships that can no longer sustain the person you are becoming. Many people stay stuck not because they lack potential, but because they are emotionally attached to what they have outgrown. Growth requires honesty. the kind that forces you to admit that some doors must close, not out of anger, but out of necessity. You cannot rise while holding on to what keeps pulling you down. Letting go means releasing the need to be understood by those who refuse to listen, releasing the comfort of familiarity that limits expansion, and releasing the fear of being alone that keeps you surrounded by the wrong people. Growth demands space, and space is created when you remove yourself from situations that drain your energy and compromise your values. Letting go does not mean erasing memories or denying experiences. It means honoring what was while refusing to live there forever. Some relationships are not broken, they are simply expired. Growth forces you to accept that not everyone is meant to walk beside you at every stage of your journey. Some people are meant to introduce you to lessons, not destinations. When you hold on too long, you delay your evolution. Letting go is a disciplined act of self-respect. It is choosing alignment over attachment, progress over nostalgia, and purpose over comfort. The hardest part of letting go is not the loss of others. It is the loss of who you used to be with them. Growth challenges your identity, asking you to step into unfamiliar territory without guarantees. But staying the same costs more than change ever will. Letting go also means releasing old mindsets, beliefs that once protected you but now limit you. You cannot grow with the same thinking that kept you surviving. Growth requires courage because it asks you to trust the future more than the past. When you let go quietly without resentment or explanation, you conserve energy that would otherwise be wasted on resistance. Silence becomes your ally in transition, allowing transformation to happen without interference. Growth is not about proving others wrong. It is about proving yourself capable. Letting go teaches you discernment, knowing what deserves your time and what no longer aligns with your standards. It sharpens your focus, strengthens your boundaries, and deepens your self-awareness. Growth feels lonely at times because elevation creates distance, and distance reveals who truly supports your progress. Letting go creates room for better opportunities, healthier relationships, and clearer purpose to enter your life. You cannot receive what is meant for the next version of you if your hands are still full of the past. Growth requires letting go because evolution demands sacrifice, and the greatest sacrifice is often what you thought you couldn't live without. When you release with intention, you rise with power. When you move forward, they look back. Forward motion is the ultimate declaration of power because it requires no explanation, no validation, and no permission. And the moment you commit to moving ahead with purpose, the past loses its grip on you, even as it becomes more fixated on where you're going. Most people stay stuck not because they don't know what to do, but because they are too busy looking back, replaying old conversations, reliving old betrayals, and waiting for closure that may never come. But growth begins the instant you stop needing the past to understand you. When you move forward, you shift the energy. You are no longer reacting to what hurt you. You are building toward what strengthens you. And that shift is felt. People who once ignored your value start to notice your absence, your progress, and your peace. Forward motion exposes contrast, the difference between stagnation and discipline, between excuses and execution, between talk and action. When you move forward, you stop broadcasting pain and start demonstrating progress. That progress becomes undeniable. It makes people reflect, compare, and question their own choices. And not everyone is comfortable with that reflection. Some will admire your growth in silence, others will feel threatened by it, but either way, your movement speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. Moving forward requires focus, and focus requires cutting off distractions disguised as familiarity. You stop revisiting what no longer serves you and start investing in what builds you. Forward motion demands accountability, showing up even when motivation fades, choosing consistency over comfort and discipline over desire. It is not dramatic, it is deliberate, and that deliberateness is intimidating to those who remain stagnant. When you move forward, you don't chase recognition. Recognition catches up to you. People begin to look back not because you demanded attention, but because your life reflects alignment, strength, and self-respect. Forward motion also brings clarity. As you progress, you see the past for what it was, a chapter, not the whole story. You no longer need revenge, validation, or apologies because success and peace become your closure. Moving forward does not mean forgetting, it means integrating lessons without carrying the weight. It means using pain as fuel instead of an anchor. Those who once underestimated you often struggle the most with your progress because your growth forces them to confront their own inaction. When you move forward, you change the narrative without speaking a word. Your silence, combined with your consistency, becomes a mirror that reflects truth. Some will chase the version of you they lost access to, but you are no longer available to the past. Forward motion teaches you that the best response is improvement, the best revenge is elevation, and the greatest statement is peace. As you continue moving, your confidence deepens, your standards rise, and your tolerance for distraction fades. You become selective, intentional, and grounded. When you move forward, you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. And in doing so, you realize that the real victory was never in being chased. It was in becoming someone who no longer needs to be.